This episode is brought to you by Google Gemini. With the Gemini app, you can talk live and have a real-time conversation with an AI assistant. It's great for all kinds of things, like if you want to practice for an upcoming interview, ask for advice on things to do in a new city, or brainstorm creative ideas. And by the way, this script was actually read by Gemini. Download the Gemini app for iOS and Android today. Must be 18 plus to use Gemini Live.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay, things people love.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. Happy holidays. I'm really delighted about today's guest coming out of Denver, Colorado, Scott Morris. And he is a entrepreneur at heart, and he's a chief people officer turned tech entrepreneur. We're going to hear all about that, and we're going to talk about so many new innovative, interesting ideas, what his company does, talent acquisition, results, and it's going to be a great conversation. And Scott, welcome.
Thank you so much, Christopher. I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Yeah. So you're founder and CEO of Propulsion AI. Talk about what that is, how you founded it, and I'm excited to dive into your ideas and topics of interest.
Let me start with what it is, and I'll tell you the founding journey in a second, because it's probably less interesting about me and more about what we've built. But the platform in itself, get a mental image here, right? Like you've got the ability to add a role to your team. Maybe it's a redesigned role. Maybe you're transferring somebody in from the outside, or maybe you're hiring somebody from outside the company. The first and most important thing that you're going to do is also the hardest, and it is define the role. It's think about how that role fits into your strategy and how you're going to measure success in it. And importantly, what are the difference between the tasks that need to get done? Because we all focus on those things, right? These are the fires that are burning, and we've got to get these things addressed. But to be successful, you really have to think about what are the outcomes. You're investing in this role. What do you need it to generate for you? And for a lot of people, that's not an easy sort of mental path to follow. In fact, most managers struggle with that. They know what they want, but they need a partner to help pull it out. And most of us are really bad at getting it out of our head. And even for some of us who do a good job of getting it out, we're bad creative writers. Now, we insert horizontally into that our HR people and our people ops team. And usually the challenge for most business managers is that the people ops team lacks the business experience to challenge the manager in the right way. And so you've got a manager who's the expert, who knows what they want, a people team who wants to help, is bandwidth constrained and doesn't really understand the business. And that's just a formula for disaster. So the HR people will tell you it takes 4 to 6 hours of work, of effort on their part to pull all of the details out and get them ready. What we did at Propulsion AI is we built a digital bot, an intelligent digital human who effectively interacts with that manager directly, has an interview with that individual. And in the course of that interview, she is pulling the ideas out and helping catalyze and provoke that manager's thinking about what they want in the role. But because she's digital, she can work in parallel. And so she is simultaneously writing a performance-based job description, an SEO optimized job posting, social media content, interviewer prep guides. She'll do compensation analysis by saying, this is the range I want to pay in. She'll look at what the market is supporting for those responsibilities and skills. And she'll say, you're either close to it or you're far away. She'll do benchmark analysis on that salary. And the best part of this is it happens not in 4 to 6 hours, but in as little as 15 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, which brings me to my question is, so is it, giving that background, what I really is interested is these overarching concepts. And you talk about the job description is dead. What is that?
I think we've come to believe that the job description is a document that doesn't mean anything, right? If you ask most people, tell me about your job description, they'll say my job description, that document doesn't have anything to do with what I do. Yeah. And we treat it like that. And our friends from the legal profession have done everything they can to protect businesses. But the fact is they've steered all of these things toward compliance. And in reality, what you need to do is inspire people. That's how we get their best work. From a business standpoint, as a business owner, it's important to recognize that fully engaged employees tend to produce 16% more than we pay them. Fully disengaged employees tend to produce 60% of what we pay them. So if you have 100 people in your organization and you've got people that are disengaged, you are losing a significant number. You're paying for 100, but you're getting the effort of 60. And so that's a big loss from the business's standpoint. So engagement matters. Keeping turnover low, keeping people in their roles matters. I don't know whether you know this or not, but the stat comes from a Forbes article where they followed 20,000 new hires. 46% of them failed in their first 18 months. And that cost of unwanted turnover is estimated to be about $600 billion in the US alone, 1.1 trillion globally. So, engaging people takes effort. And if we treat that job description document as a compliance document or as something that doesn't matter, or if we let it get out of date, we're not doing what we can, one, to set that person up for success, but two, to inspire them.
Yeah. And like I said, I read a startling statistic that was like 15 years ago, and it was like 80 or 90% of people were they hated their job. And I think these days, probably 90+%, they were doing other things. They would rather be doing other things. But you had a cushy corporate gig, and now you're a tech entrepreneur. And so the question is, you have this saying is like, why would anybody in their right mind go from getting paid 40 hours a week, 6-figure, to working 70 hours per week for free? Just talk about that.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you're asking that question around the holidays, right? Because when you work for somebody else, holidays matter, right? You get holidays and you get time off. And everybody in your audience, I suspect, knows the same thing, which is that being a founder is like the hardest job in the world. And simultaneously, you get paid hardly anything to do it, if that, right?
Yeah.
And I think for any of us that do it, including, I'm hoping every single person sitting in the audience right now, it's because they want to change something. They feel passionately about changing something that they have experienced in business. And I know that's the case for me, and I'm happy to tell you about what the journey that led to that. But I think that's the driving force. It's that passion that I can do this better. I can make the world somehow better with this creation that I had, with this idea that I had. And it makes all of it worth it. And I will tell you, I've been at this for a little bit over a year at Propulsion AI. I would not change a bit of it. It would have been nice to have gotten paid a little bit more, but I wouldn't change anything. One, for what I've learned as an entrepreneur, and two, for just the opportunity to go out and create something that has worth to other people.
Yeah. Another statistic I heard recently is, up to the $80,000 mark, after that, it's people care more about, do you get time with loved ones, or can you go work out, or, these higher meaning, can you be creative? Can you be passionate? So you've got the corporate and you've got the startup, and we talk about the cost of a bad hire, and how is like Gen Z and millennials are really different than boomers, a little bit different than Gen Xers. So how is Gen Z changing workplace expectations?
So let's start with, I think you and I might agree. I agree with you. The literature is saying there are differences, but here's what I think unifies all of us. We want to be in meaningful work. I don't think Gen Z feels any differently about doing something that matters and having a career that matters than baby boomers did. And they may want other things. Gen Z tends to want more flexibility in their work arrangements, right? But I think at the heart of it, every one of us wants to do meaningful work. And that's one of the reasons. I promise you, Christopher, I'll answer your question directly, but I want to come back to something you said earlier, because the idea of the job description being dead, right? That job description is an opportunity. Who cares what the piece of paper says? But that mental model that the boss uses to figure out what the job is going to matter to that sense of purpose that each one of us has when we do the job. So if you come to me as my boss and you're like, here, Scott, this is a set of outcomes that are really meaningful to our organization, and I want you to own them. I am trusting you with this aspect of the business. But not only that, here's how I'm going to measure your success. And from the beginning, I thought this through. I understand how you and I jointly are going to know whether you're doing this or you're not. And by the way, here's my path for your growth and development. LinkedIn did a study. 94% of employees would stay with their employer, their present employer, longer if that employer had a vested interest in their learning and growth. And whether you put it in a document that we call a job description or not, what's really important is, did you think it through? Have you thought how that role is going to grow? And I think those things, knowing that you're doing something meaningful, understanding in clear and specific terms how success is going to be measured for you, and then understanding what your boss's path for your own growth is. Those are things that I think every single generation in the workplace today really wants. They may express it differently, but those are things that, that are desires, and sometimes more than money.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the new generative AI assistant from AWS. Many tasks can make business slow, like wading through mud. Help! Luckily, there's a faster, easier, less messy choice. Amazon Q can securely understand your business data to help you streamline tasks, like summarizing quarterly results or doing complex analyses in no time. Q got this. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
Yeah. How does Gen Z feel about, because you say they want to work on meaningful things and they want to work for employers or work for themselves that really make a difference or resonate with their values. Are more Gen Zers, are you saying more Gen Zers opt out of the traditional employment and just starting their own cultures and becoming solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, creating their own companies, or are they still trying to partner up with companies and corporations?
And the number of people that go on an entrepreneurial journey is smaller. And first of all, I would feel really silly trying to speak for an entire generation with my own ideas. So I don't know by quantities, and I haven't read a study by quantities about what's happening with Gen Z on that front. I think it is for certain that Gen Z wants more flexibility in their work. But here's how I would relate that back to the importance of talking about outcomes. Because in the ideal situation, you should come to me and you should say, Scott, look, here's the outcome that I need you to be accountable for. Christopher, let me turn this into a tangible example. Let's say I'm an accountant and I work in your organization. And you say to me, in a traditional sense, you would say, here's your job duty. Your job duty is come in and follow up on delinquent accounts. First, I would say to that, how long do you think I'm going to stay in that job? How boring is that going to get on a day-to-day basis if that's my job? But the purpose, that is an activity, follow up on delinquent accounts. It is a means to an end. The end is we have a number called days outstanding, and it's an efficiency measure in accounting. And it's a way that you measure how quickly the organization can collect money on sales, right? Instead of saying your job is to follow up on delinquent accounts, if you say to me, hey, Scott, your job is to bring this days outstanding number from this level to this level. I go, okay, I can do that. And I not only go out and follow up on delinquent accounts, but I may start to experiment and innovate tactics that would help me do that. And I come back to you and I say, Christopher, listen, if this is what you want, shouldn't I be doing these things? And that flexibility, you want that kind of innovation around the tactics. And as a boss, you want to go, yeah, of course. I didn't even think about that. Of course you should do that, right? And I think Gen Z wants that. They want control over how they do the work. The boss gets to set the non-negotiable. The boss gets to set the outcome. But ideal bosses are ones who have thought through where can they give you freedom to experiment. And I think in doing that, it's almost like a little mini entrepreneurship if you're offering ownership over the right things, because that's what entrepreneurs do. They identify problems, they go out and solve those problems, and that results in something, and then they move on to the next thing. And I think as a boss, that's what you want to create. And the way that you do that is framing your thinking around how the job is designed in outcomes terms rather than task terms.
Yeah. And a follow-up question I have for you is what you're describing throughout this conversation is risks of people. So it could be the hiring process, could be just results, just everything is productivity. Everything is dependent upon people. And so how do you future-proof the risk with hires. What are your thoughts on that? And later on, I'm going to ask you where AI fits into all of this.
Yeah, so great question, first of all. And when you say, just to make sure I interpret the question the right way, when you say future proof, I'm thinking about things like how do you set yourself up for lower turnover? How do you set yourself up for higher engagement? How do you set yourself up for higher productivity? Am I hearing your question right?
Yeah, just every time there's significant time to train, there's significant time to onboard, significant time to hire, and then if the employee doesn't turn out or pan out or they quit, that's significant.
I see where you're going.
Yeah.
I see where you're going. So I think, first of all, the key is how do you shrink the timelines? Step number one on that journey, get the human beings out of tasks that technology does well, embrace that technology, let the humans move toward value added areas that tech doesn't do well. So we think when you use the Propulsion AI platform, and I'll use us as an example, right? You're not going to spend 4 to 5 hours designing a role, and you're not going to have to work with your HR team. You're going to spend as little as 15 minutes. You're going to come out with super well documented paper, but you're going to come out with true clarity. Now that clarity serves you in a couple of different ways. The process, by the way, just frees your HR team to go do other things, like be with candidates and make sure that now they take your very specific spec and match it to a candidate pool and bring you candidates that you liked the first time, rather than doing this, I need to see more, I need to see more, right? The reason that back and forth happens is we weren't tight enough on the spec to begin with. Now we go to interviews. Here's what happens in a lot of interview processes today, is that we are working out in the interview what we want. That is not a good way to build brand for the organization. It's not a good way to find the right talent. The cure for that is having that really detailed spec. Now you go into the interview and you can change the interview tactics. You can say, group one, you guys are looking at this aspect. Group two, you're looking at this one. Group three, you're looking at this one, and give out specific assignments. That's going to lead you to a much more precise selection process. Now, in doing that, your HR team became consultants to your interviewers because they saved time on the admin pieces. So now you've got coaches for your interviewers. You've got a very tight spec. That's going to reduce your error rate for your hires. And Career Builder did a study, and of the employers that they surveyed, 74% admitted to hiring the wrong people. And in part, it's because they don't do the work up front. So part of future proofing is do that work up front, get the humans in the right roles, get technology in the right roles, and be hyper specific about what you're looking for going in, because it's going to speed you up on the way out.
Yeah. And where is AI coming in? Is AI going to make human recruiters and HR professionals obsolete, or is it actually, because I was talking with another entrepreneur software founder over lunch the other day, and he was saying he wants to create a $1 million business that is only running on software. He doesn't want to have to deal with employees. So where is AI coming into all of this?
Yeah, I have a different view on that, Christopher, and I think that's a really insightful question. Let's go back historically. I'll give you a quick history tour. I wasn't around for it, but 1967, Texas Instruments released the calculator. And there was this similar kind of uproar around that device. They thought bookkeepers were going to go away and that people wouldn't be able to do basic math anymore. Just the opposite was true. Advance now to 1983, Lotus 123 came out. Same kind of uproar and furor. This time it was with accountants. But you know what they found at that time was that it actually made the presence of Lotus 123 made accountants more valuable, not less valuable. It's just they contributed that value differently. They stopped delivering value in calculations because the technology took that piece, and they started to deliver value through consultation, through analysis, and through strategy. And I think a very similar thing is happening right now with artificial intelligence, especially in the HR tech space. Here's what is going to happen, though, and here's where jobs are going to change. People that embrace technology are going to outpace those that don't. So people who are looking at the artificial intelligence tools right now and incorporating them in, they're going to be so much faster, so much better, and so much more enabled than the people who are resisting that technological shift. And that's where, if there are jobs to be taken, they're not going to be taken by AI. They're going to be taken by other humans who are utilizing the AI.
Yeah, really interesting. So rounding it out, talk about 5 significant lessons you learned as an entrepreneur and how people can find you and follow you and reach out to you and learn more about Propulsion AI.
Yeah. I think lesson number one is get a group of people around you that can advise you. And you don't have to listen to them, but find people with different points of view. I think like your podcast is a perfect example, right? People listen and they gain insights. I consume a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of stuff on a daily basis. It is important, but it's important in addition to having people like you and me talking and you giving me advice, right? That's a different kind of value that gets created. And I think every entrepreneur needs a board of directors around them, whether they're a formal board or not. Whether you have a large company or a small company, you need that personal board of directors to guide you. Second one is move fast. And this is not like, it's not an original thought from me, but man, it's a lesson that I learned the hard way. I wanted things to be perfect. And what I didn't realize is there is no such thing, even by my own standard. There is only iterative perfectness, right? I'm going to try this and 90% of it's going to fail. And I have to get to that failure quickly because only when I get to the failure do I understand how to improve it. And so what I did in the very beginning was I was building a product that I was really proud of, but it was way too slow. So I've learned to be a lot faster. And I think that's another really important lesson that I've learned. Let go of your idea of perfection, move fast. You're going to cringe. I cringe all the time. Every time I just write an article and put it out there, get it out there. You will learn to improve it and everybody's going to forget the failures.
Yeah. And it's just talking about just iterate and just take action. One thing I love to do is guests that have extensive libraries. And I know for the audio listeners, you can check out the video in the YouTube video podcast in the description below. But what is one recent book that you would recommend, business or personal development, for the readers?
Gosh. I'm going to I'm turning around at the different books. So there are a couple of books that I like. Can I do two?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
So in the HR space, I like Drive by Daniel Pink, where he focuses on mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And a lot of what we built into the Propulsion AI platform is really based on that, right? How do you get managers in that headspace? I think that's an exceptional book when you're thinking about what keeps people motivated at work. And if you're an early stage entrepreneur, you're going to have a team sometime. So you got to start to embrace this mindset so you're ready for them, right? Second book that I love is by Harvard professor Ron Heifetz and his writing partner, Marty Linsky. And it's called Leadership on the Line. Probably the most important leadership book I've ever read. It is a book that's focused on what's called adaptive leadership, leading an organization to actually change rather than to apply technical fixes. And I like the book because it's about mindset shifts and it's about helping other people have mindset shifts. And one of the things that they say in the book is two that are important. One, leadership is a verb. It's not a noun. You can only see it when it's being exercised, and that doesn't happen with titles or position or authority. The second is that the role of a leader is to frustrate an organization at a rate that it can accept so that it provokes change.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So thanks so much for an awesome podcast and keep up the great work and happy holidays.
Thank you. Same to you, Christopher. I appreciate the invite. It's great to have been with you.